All right. So the way I would have responded to your interview, everyone just remember everyone has a different way to try and explain um, things, right? So I may have a different body language to yourself, and you would prefer to, for example, answer a certain question. So why don't you ask myself a question, or I can actually just go through the questions again. All right. So what do you? Let's talk about your hometown. Where's your hometown? All right. And I would say, hey, I live in Sydney, Australia, right? But my hometown is in Pakistan. There's a small city in the southwest of Pakistan, which is a southern part of Punjab. That's where I was born and raised. But I have spent early years of my life working in the working abroad, right? So I have traveled to Australia when I was 17 or 18 years old, all right, to pursue my higher studies. And I always liked and dreamed about getting higher education from our top quality providers in a country such as Australia, all right.
Definitely.
What I like about Sydney, it's a beautiful city. It's got not just the basic amenities, it's got many, many landmarks, right? So for example, Sydney Opera House or Sydney Harbour Bridge that was built 122 years ago, and it still flows better than any other road project in Sydney, even though there's been many, many bridges and tunnels that have been built over the years. And with Sydney Opera House, that was built in 1973 by a Dutch architect, and it's it's been listed at a heritage listed in a global heritage listing. It's one of the top 8 landmarks in the world. All right, it gets millions of tourists every year which actually come and see the architecture. Most of Sydney Opera House is below the water. All right, so how important it is for me to live in my hometown. Look, I have lived here for the last 2.5 decades, and I have lived and worked here. Uh, I have taught in different universities after I've actually completed my higher educations. I have been worked in logistics and supply chain in different professions. For example, more recently, for the last 1 decade, I've been working in program and project
Yes.
management. All right, and I have worked in healthcare. Uh, Information technology, defense manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and education research sector, especially during COVID, when things were down and things weren't really coming into their place, right? So, will I
Okay.
continue to live there? Absolutely. I would like to see myself living in the city. I have lived in Australia longer than my actual hometown, right? So, and even though I have strong ties and roots in my own city, but I still like the city I'm currently living in. All right, it offers a good education, good lifestyle, many, many opportunities for families to live and grow and work and be a contributive and a contributing citizen, for example. All right, so
Okay.
next question about what kind of do. Well, let's move on to talking about your accommodation. What kind of accommodation live in? Look, just because I don't have a huge family here in Australia, and I have one or two of my siblings that actually live here. I like to live. I have lived in an apartment setting for the first 15 years of living in Australia, and then ultimately, when I had more time for myself, I moved into a bigger house because house takes longer and very time consuming to clean and do the lawns and all that as well. So I'm currently living in a house, but I have lived in apartment or unit block settings. Um,
Okay.
and then everywhere you live in Sydney, there's amenities available, whether this is supermarket or public transport, or in close proximity to hospitals or the airports, for example. All right. Is there anything I would like to change about it? Yes, I would like to live in a less dense city. Sydney is a city of, um, about 6.5 million people, and the population over the last 5 or 10 years have grown significantly, especially after COVID, when a lot of the young people started coming here for studies, or whether they're direct migrants or they come here to live, right? So, if I could change it, I would love to live
Yeah.
in a bigger house with my dogs and with my animals. But then again, it comes back to what kind of lifestyle you're leading, or whether I like to live, I have enough time from my work and the other engagements to look after my pets, right? So, and do I plan to live there? I travel a lot for work, and I can see myself living here in the near future, but again, that comes back to family, because when you're far away from your family, you would always like to come back to the people you love and where you belong, right? So you get a sense of belonging
Yeah.
when I go to, even though I've traveled in more than 120 countries, for example, I would still love my hometown, all right, where I belong, right? So this is what you will be saying, that I would like to go to Australia to pursue my higher studies. But after the completion of my higher studies, I would like to come back to my home city and try and start a business, for example, or help your parents in, growing their existing business, for example, or in your
Yes.
case, if your father, so give your parents a helping hand, right, and grow your online business, right? So this should be the answer. Hope it makes sense.
Okay, uncle.
It does make sense. Do you have any questions about it?
No, uncle.
Okay, wonderful.